viewers, welcome to Class Online School. In our previous class, we discussed the topic letter writing. We said letter writing is a means of what? Passing a message across to what? A particular person. Sending what? Information across. Letter writing deals with what? Sending of information. I talked about types of letter writing. I said we have the formal letter, informal letter, and semi-formal letter. In the class, I discussed the informal letter. Informal letter was letter written to people that are well known to you. They are known as what? Personal letter. Letter you write to what? People that are very close to you. Your friend, your father, your mother, your relatives. They are what? Examples of informal letter. But today we'll be talking about formal letter. What do we mean by formal letter? Formal letter are the types of letter we write towards people that are not well known to us. Opposite of what? Informal letter. Formal letter generally is referred to as what? Official letter. Formal letter is referred to as what? Official letter. Because the person you might be writing to might not be the particular person that will read that letter. The person you are directing that you directed the letter to might not be the actual person who read the letter. So they are known as what? Official letter. And formal letter are official letters written to someone who is in an official position to get something done or to achieve a particular result. For instance, we have letter of application. You want to get a job, you write a letter. The kind of letter you write is known as what? Formal letter. Formal letter are known as what? Official letter. And letter of application is an example what? Of a formal letter. Letter of application might be writing to get the job of a driver, of a teacher, secretary, etc. So we have a lot of examples on that. Number 2, official requests and their replies. You might be writing to what? An organization about a particular thing. So the kind of letter you write to an official organization, that is known as what? Formal letter. And this kind of letter, when you get the reply from them, it's also referred to as what? Formal letter. The third one, protest letters and their replies. You might, for instance, you might write a letter to what? The local government chairman on what? The road damage, the ongoing construction, either security, lack of security, lack of social amenities. Those kind of letters write to the local government chairman. They are also referred to as what? Formal letter. Formal invitation, writing to schools. You might write to schools for forthcoming inter sports, invitation letters to other companies, to official company. So now we refer to it as what? Formal invitation. Writing to what? A particular official establishment. Now we have letter on business transaction. The ongoing business transaction, the kind of letter I write is referred to as what? A formal letter. Letter to the principal of the school. Letter I write to the principal of the school is referred to as what? Formal letter. All these are examples of what? Formal letter. So formal letter is referred to as what? Official letter. Official letter written to what? Someone in an official position. You might write to the editor of a newspaper about examination malpractice. You might just put down a piece of article writing to the editor of a newspaper. That kind of letter, we call it formal letter. All those are examples of formal letter. Now I'm going to give a format of a formal letter. Why a formal letter is quite different from informal letter. Last class we discussed about informal letter and I gave the format. Now we're going to talk about the format of what? A formal letter. We have the format of what? A formal letter. Address. The first thing is the address of what? The writer. Remember, in informal letter, we just have one address, and the address is for what? The address is for the writer. But in formal letter, we have address of the writer here. 47, Bishop Philip Street, Orile Aguda, comma, Lagos, full stop. 10th August 2020, full stop. What next? We have the destination and full address of what? The receiver. The address of the person that is receiving your letter. The principal. If you're writing to a school principal, the principal. If you're writing to the editor, the editor. If you're writing to the manager, the manager. The chairman. Whoever you're writing to will be indicated here. We have comma. I'm writing to a school principal. The principal, comma, Nobles College, the name of the school. We have, comma, PMB, private labels, 3046, comma, and Ikeja. This is what? The address of my receiver, the principal. Remember I told you if I'm writing to a newspaper company, the editor, you write the name of the company right here and the state or the town where the company is. If you are writing to a manager, you do the same thing and indicate the company. Then, after this, we have the word salutation. Remember I told you in informal letter, the salutation, we use what? My dear Tola, dearest Shegun, dear Shegun. But remember, in a formal letter, note, you make use of what? Formal words. Formal words. And in all this address, do not use abbreviation. Do not make use of abbreviation in a formal letter. In a formal letter, abbreviation is not used. So, in case you want to abbreviate the street to STR, full stop, is not allowed in a formal letter. School, SCH, it is not allowed in a formal letter. You write the full words here using, because this is a what? Official letter. Note, no abbreviation in a formal letter. Why informal letter? You make use of what? Colloquial slangs. You make use of slang in an informal letter. But in a formal letter, all those things are not allowed. In your salutation and greeting, dear sir, dear ma, dear madam. If I writing to the principal, dear principal. If I writing to the editor, dear editor. So note, there's nothing like dearest Shegun in a formal letter. There's nothing like my dear Tola in a formal letter. Because you don't know the person you are addressing the letter to personally. You might know everything about the person, but it is a what? Official letter. It should be in a what? Formal way. Now I'm going to write the example of what? Salutation and greeting for a formal letter. Remember, the first format of a formal letter, we have what? The address of what? The writer. Followed by what? The address of the writer at the right hand. The address of the receiver at the left hand side. Then the next thing is what? The greeting and salutation. When you are writing to a man, you make use of what? Dear sir. Strictly, dear sir. If you are writing to a woman, dear madam or dear ma. This is strictly dear sir or dear madam, dear ma. That is what you must use. But if you are writing to a school principal, you can write dear principal. Or if you are writing to a newspaper editor, you can make use of what? Dear editor. That is what you are allowed to use. So this is about what? The greeting and salutation. Immediately we have the words, the receiver's address. We have the greeting and salutation. Dear sir, dear ma, dear principal or dear editor, followed by what? A comma. Then we'll move to the next format. We have the next format. I said after the writer's address, we have the receiver's address. Then the greeting and salutation. We have title of the letter. In every formal letter, we have a title. We must have a title in all formal letter, depending on what? On the thing you're talking about. depending on the thing you are writing on, you must have what? A heading, a topic. A formal letter must have a title, depending on the topic you are writing on. Example, I want to write a letter to my local government chairman. Lack of social amenities in our community. The appropriate title I can use is what? Lack of social amenities in my locality. Remember, this is in a block form. It is the capital letter. Then I have this. Lack of social amenities in my locality. This is what? In a capital and a small letter. When you are writing in this form, it's not necessary for you to underline. There's no need of you to underline. But when you are writing in this form, you underline. You underline your words heading. When you are writing a capital letter, it is not compulsory for you to underline. But when you are writing in a small letter, note, you underline your heading. Then we move towards the closing subscript of format. We have the fifth format. We have the complementary close. What do we mean by the complementary close? The acceptable complementary close for formal letter is yours faithfully. Remember, in an informal letter we said yours sincerely, yours ever, your lovely friend, etc. are what's used for informal letter. But in the formal letter, the acceptable complementary clause for a formal letter is yours faithfully. And when you are writing yours, the Y begins with what? A capital letter. Yours. There is no apostrophe anywhere. You just have yours. Beginning with Y with what? A capital letter. And faithfully begins with what? A small letter F. Yours begins with what? Y, capital letter, and faithfully begins with what? A small letter. We have yours faithfully. Then we have the comma. The sixth one, signature of the writer. The writer's signature is compulsory. When you write yours faithfully, the next thing underneath you have what? Your signature. You append your signature. Then the seventh format, name of the writer. Your signature must be followed by your full name. Then we have this. Yours faithfully. Remember, capital letter and small letter F with comma. Signature and O.B. James. Surname and name. We have full stop. That is all on formal letter. You have what? Yours faithfully, comma. You append your signature, then O.B. James, the writer's full name. Now I'm going to write example of what? A formal letter on the board. Example of what? A formal letter. In a formal letter, remember we have two addresses, the receiver address and the writer's address and what? The receiver address. The first address we have is what? The writer address. Then the second address is the receiver address. We have the greetings, salutation. We have the title, body, and the closing subscript. This is the receiver's address. I told you there's no need of you to write number. You have 10, comma, Temidayo Lane. Which punctuation mark are we using? Comma, Ibadan. Full stop. 4th August. We have a comma here. 2020, we have full stop. The editor, the person, I'm writing a letter to the editor of a newspaper, Daily Times newspaper, telling him about the examination malpractice, why examination malpractice should stop. I have the receiver's address, the editor, comma, the name of the newspaper, Daily Times newspaper, comma, Lagos. I have full stop. The next, the greetings and salutation. Dear sir, remember I told you, dear sir, dear ma, dear madam, dear editor, dear principal. If you're writing to a school principal, then dear sir, we have a punctuation mark and that is comma. Remember I told you when you're writing your title. If it's in a block form, a capital letter, there is no need of you to underline. But if it's in a small letter, you can underline. You must underline. Examination, malpractice must stop. That is my title. That is what I'm writing on. I wish to express my opinion on examination malpractices going on in secondary schools. I feel sad that even teachers encourages it simply because they want extra money. Lastly, in the last paragraph, all ends must be on deck to fight this evil. And I have my full stop, my closing, subscript. Just faithfully, comma. Remember I told you Y is in a capital letter, YF is in a what? Small letter. Yours faithfully, yours, the Y begins with a capital letter and F begins with what? A small letter. Then I have my signature, the writer's signature. Yeah? I pen my signature here, then I have my full name, Michael Okoli. Then I have full stop. That is it. In a formal letter, we have just, informal letter, we have just one address. There's no need of writing the writer's, the receiver's address. We have our greetings and salutation, dearest friend, dear Tola, my dear Shegun. Yeah, and there's no need of title in an informal letter. And the body of the letter, in a informal letter, we use yours sincerely, yours ever, yours affectionately, yours lovely, your lovely friend, comma, just name, first name of the person. There is no need of signature and the full name. But in a formal letter, everything must be in a what? Formal way. Our writings must be in what? A formal way. There's no need of you saying, how are you, the editor, how is your family, how is everyone, I hope you slept well. In an formal letter. Formal letter must be in a formal way. That's why we need to go straight to the point what we are talking about in a formal letter. That is all on formal letter and informal letter. So I hope you can distinguish between a formal letter and an informal letter. When they ask you to write a formal letter, remember, informal letter is a letter you write to people that are well known to you. For instance, in your exam, they ask you to write a letter to your uncle, write a letter to your brother, write a letter to your father, your sister. They are referred to as informal letter. But in a formal letter, it is always official. So the differences between formal letter and informal letter. In formal letter we have one address. In a formal letter we have two addresses, and we have salutation. We have dear sir, dear ma for formal letter. Informal letter, my dear Tola, my dear Shegun, dearest Obi, and no title in an informal letter. For formal letter we have title. Body of the letter is always in a formal way. In a formal letter, informal letter, you can make use of what colloquial language, slangs. You make use of slangs when writing. Then we have yours faithfully for the closing subscript for formal letter, and yours sincerely, yours ever, your lovely friend in a informal letter. So that is all on formal, informal letter. You need to what? Know how to write better when trying to what? When you know the difference between the informal letter and the formal letter, and the procedure in writing a formal letter is quite different from an informal letter. I hope you enjoyed the class. See you next time.